Hey everybody, welcome back. Got a question from a student about intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting, should I be doing it? Is it good? Is it bad? And I just want to fill you guys in. If you haven't heard about intermittent fasting, which has been all the rage for the past few years, is this idea that you fast for a certain period of the day and you have a limited feeding window, time when you actually eat. And so a lot of times people will fast until 10 a.m. or they'll fast until noon and they'll stop eating. They'll cut off the feeding window at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. So they're only eating within an 8-hour window of the day or a 10-hour window of the day or sometimes a 6 or 4-hour window of the day. Try to cram all the food in at that time. And so the question is, should I be doing that? Is it good? Is it bad? Are there benefits to it? So first off, I'm going to say there are benefits to doing fasting when it's done intelligently. And there are dangers to doing fasting when it's done unintelligently. And I'm not a fan of purposefully changing the feeding window just to some arbitrary time limit. I don't really think that's very helpful. And there's a lot of ways that people are doing this artificially, where they're fasting, but they're really just drinking coffee, maybe with a bunch of butter in it, as a way to stave off their appetite. And if you're suffering from an autoimmune disease, coffee is probably one of the worst things you can drink. It shocks your immune system. It shocks your adrenals into producing adrenaline and continues to add to that fight or flight sympathetic nervous system tone, which is really bad for autoimmunity. So I definitely am not a fan of coffee as a way to basically trick the body into not being hungry. You really want to listen to your body. You want to listen to when it's hungry and when it's full and when it's not hungry. And most people, they have no sense of this because they've been eating processed frankenfoods loaded with additives, salt, sugar, oil as means of stimulating the appetite. So they're just eating because they feel like it, or they have emotions they want to suppress, or everybody else is eating, or it's noon, it's lunchtime, I'm supposed to eat. And they really have no sense of when they're hungry and when they're full. And they really only have a sense of when their blood sugar gets low. Oh, I'm cranky, it's time to eat. When you start eating fresh whole foods, primarily raw plant foods, you begin to notice when you're hungry and when you're full. Okay, and that's the most important thing. That's what I want you to pay attention to. And I want you to not eat when you're not hungry, and eat when you are hungry, and eat to when you're full, and then stop. And it's really easy to do with plant foods because you eat mangoes, they're going to taste amazing for a while, and then you're going to get full, and you're going to go, wow, I could not eat another mango. And you're not going to get some sort of uncomfortable full. You're going to feel really good. But if you do the same thing with double cheeseburgers, you're going to eat until you feel pretty awful. You feel so full, like, oh my God, I can't believe I ate that much. It doesn't really happen with whole plant foods. And so once you get in touch with this sense of when you're hungry and when you're satiated, it becomes almost arbitrary when you eat and when you don't eat, because you simply eat when you're hungry and you don't eat when you're not hungry. Yesterday, I didn't have my first meal till 11 a.m. because I simply just wasn't hungry. And then I ate quite a bit of food. I had a pretty narrow feeding window where in between 11 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. I ate about probably over 2,000 calories from watermelon and then later on green smoothie. But I don't try to restrict the feeding window to any particular time, because when you do these sort of gymnastics to force yourself to eat or force yourself to not eat, your body's always going to catch up, right? If you're trying to suppress the amount of calories that you eat and keep them below a certain level, eventually you're just going to get hungry and you're going to binge out probably on something unhealthy because you're just starving yourself. So I really don't recommend this arbitrary, setting of the feeding window. What I do endorse is eating whole, fresh, ripe, raw plant foods and getting a sense of your own hunger and satiety and eating when you're hungry and eating when you're not. And a lot of times you'll find that you're doing intermittent fasting just by default because you're simply not hungry. And any of this artificially changing the feeding window with arbitrary times or trying to suppress your hunger drive with stimulants like coffee is only going to lead to bad things down the road. And it may be sustainable. You see these guys who I intermittent fasted for 2 months and they can get cut and get this great physique, probably destroying their own health on the inside, but they look pretty good on the outside. And then when time ends and they don't want to do it anymore, well, then their body has to catch up to all this caloric deficit they didn't feed it. They end up binging out. They end up, getting their health's worth worse. They undo all the gains that they got, starving themselves for a certain period of time, and ultimately their health is none the better. But if you stick to this long term, you do it for your health, you eat whole plant foods, you find that you just get a natural sense of your own satiety. Maintaining your weight is easy, staying well is easy. You eat when you're hungry, you don't eat when you're not hungry, you never feel horrible after a meal, you always feel great, and ultimately you have your health and you're way better off. So that's what I advise when it comes to intermittent fasting. Do it intelligently, listen to yourself when you're hungry and when you're not hungry, and act accordingly. All right, guys, catch you next video. I have a special gift for you. The Autoimmune Recovery Blueprint is everything I wish I had 10 years ago when I came down with an autoimmune disease and doctors couldn't help me. Condense it down into a 12-page ebook, yours free when you sign up for my email list.